6. A guy with a scent. Before the Duke gets caught disguising her as a man and discovers that she is her one-night partner, Chloe, she must leave the house one step ahead, knowing that she is a man. Of course, since I only worked for 3 months, I was in a situation where I had to pay as much as 9 months of salary out of the 1 year's salary I received first. But he was much better off than having to pay a fine or be punished. There was no way to get the money right now, but that was something to think about later. She immediately began to return to the Duke's room from which she had fled earlier. Now that she had come to a conclusion, she had no reason or time to delay even for a moment. She's smart. Duke, this is Cline. Come in. As soon as the Duke answered, Chloe entered his room. What's going on? Asked her Duke, who was writing something about her, without even looking at her. Well, Duke, I feel I must apologize. Say. The Duke still wasn't looking at her. Before speaking to the butler, I thought it would be right to speak to the Duke first as a servant. The Duke, who had been playing with her quills, stopped her hand and finally raised her head to look at her. Why are you wasting time talking like this? If you have something to say, I'd like you to say it quickly and leave. It felt like a cold wind was coming out of his tone of voice. Why does the temperature of the peacock that treats you every time you enter the room seem to be different, like going back and forth between winter and summer? Yesterday I kicked her out like she had a contagious disease, but didn't I ask her every little thing just a little while ago to the point where I felt sweet towards her? And now it's like a cold bath full of ice. Starting from the day of the overnight accident, the Duke's mood tended to change so rapidly that it was difficult to keep up with it. Still, it was easier for him to be aloof rather than suddenly friendly. Duke, I'm sorry to tell you this after only 3 months of hiring you, but I think I'll have to quit my job. What? My mother continues to be ill, so I guess I will have to take care of her. I will talk to Mr. Wilson and repay the salary I received to pay for treatment. Okay? Yes. I thought he would say he understood, but there were no further words from the Duke. Well, it's only been 3 months since I was hired. Although it was a poor choice for her, she was not without distinction. I think there are many people other than me who can serve as servants, but if you say I need to fill in the gap for a few days, I will work until then. I think I just need to leave the Duke's residence until Sir Joyce and the Intelligence Guild find out information about me. You took my salary to pay for treatment? Only then did the Duke speak again. The topic was surprisingly about salary. The Duke seemed to have no idea that Chloe had received an advance on her salary. Yes, I will repay you gradually, even if not immediately. Yes, do that. I think it would bother her a lot when her mother is sick. Ah, yes. Finally, with the Duke's permission, Chloe felt her stiff neck and shoulders relax slightly. Thank you. And I am truly sorry for suddenly quitting. There was also time to add greetings. Then go out and see. Coordinating with the butler when to leave. Yes. All right. Chloe nodded and left the room. She didn't know that the Duke's gaze was persistently following her on the back of her head. Tack. Hugh Gray suddenly came to his senses when he heard the door completely close and frowned at the ink marks left on the letter. It seemed like I had been pressing the quill pen I was holding onto the paper without realizing it. I guess I should write it again. With a slight frown on his face, he spoke in a muttering tone. He was in the process of writing a letter cancelling marriage talks with the Tilbot family, which had a fiefdom in the kingdom of Tigrium. The Tilbot family. Long ago, the top predator beast men fought a fierce battle for territory, and as a result, the top predator tribes, the lion and tiger beast men, who were unable to determine their superiority until the end, divided the continent into two and established a country. They ruled not only humans, but also lower-ranking predators and prey animal beast men. However, top predators such as wolves, hawks, and snakes did not fall under their control. They simply coexisted independently, staying in their own territory within the two divided countries. It was a long-standing agreement that recognized the hegemony of the lion and tiger, who were the final victors, but did not allow interference. If it was the wolf as dukes who fought until the end against the lion beast men in Elrayan to maintain their independence, it was the Count Tilbuts who played that role in Tigrium. In other words, Wolfas and Tilbut could be said to be the main axis of the wolf-beast tribe. Therefore, it was also the family that most frequently combined to produce alphas. Therefore, it was so obvious that it was taken for granted not only to himself but also to the entire wolf-beast race that he, the alpha, would imprint with the wolf-beast woman of the Tilbut family. But then out of nowhere, he imprinted on a human woman. Since the imprint that has already been made cannot be undone, the marriage talk with Reyna Tilbot, who has the blood of a wolf beast flowing through her veins, has no choice but to be nullified. He set the quill on the pen stand and crumpled up the stained stationery. However, after taking out a new piece of stationery, he tried to put his paper down on the desk, but instead crumpled the new piece of paper with nothing written on it again. "Are you quitting? So suddenly? Arbitrarily? You suddenly notify me like this without prior notice after working for several months?" The discomfort I had barely suppressed ripped off the mask of composure and burst out. It wasn't because of a distorted imprint, but because of one servant. Her usual self was not an employer who would get angry at an employee who quit work to take care of her sick mother. That's why I managed to control the growing irritation and embarrassment and acted with common sense. As always, as a reasonable and rational being. Why am I so angry when I did something so deserved? Because of his Tigrium language skills. Even the salary must have been set high to begin with. I heard that he even received that high salary. He was specially hired as a servant because of his ability to speak Tigrium, but he was more clumsy and passive than anyone else when it came to serving him. Moreover, isn't that language skill passed away without being used even once? His marriage to the daughter of the Tilbut family was over, and there was no need to use an interpreter. In fact, since there was no need to communicate with Reyna Tilbot, the logical and cool-headed conclusion had to be drawn that it didn't matter who served as the servant other than that guy. But it's a shame, and again. What a shame. In this chaotic situation with engravings, that guy is going to leave on his own accord? Are you not taking into account the fact that the owner is feeling uncomfortable? Even though he knew that Cline Lidden had no idea about his imprint, he was forcing it. Yes. He even took into account that guy's unusual vacation circumstances. But now he says that even that vacation isn't enough and he's going to abandon himself and resign. Me, that smelly guy. Suddenly his eyes widened. He abandoned himself? Does it make sense for a mere user to abandon his master? You're crazy. I'm really crazy. He felt abandoned when he heard that one of his servants was quitting his job, and it was clear that his mind had been going back and forth ever since he was imprinted. He closed his eyes and started breathing deeply. He is not normal now. He had to control his excitement. Unexplained nervousness, anxiety, and discomfort. All of this must have been due to imprinting. So he had to believe that it would be solved if he just found the target for imprinting. Chloe. If only she could find her. I provided a guarantor when I received the money in advance, so I don't think it will be a big problem, Wilson said, looking at the documents. When Chloe moved into the duchy's residence, he was Calcas' identity document, presented as a guarantor. The butler was upset that he would suddenly quit his job, but since the Duke had given his permission, he said without saying anything that he could go out tomorrow. Now all I have to do is resolve the advance salary. Yes. My name is Calcas Tarkhan, my friend. Calcas Tarkhan, this man's identity has been vouched for by Lord Borgin. Yes. It was not for everyone to receive a monthly salary. Chloe presented Calcas as a guarantor, and since Calcas was working as a servant of the Borgin Lord, Calcas' identity was guaranteed by the Borgin Lord. It's meaningless for a commoner who doesn't have anything to give a guarantee, but if it's the Lord of Borgin, it's certain. Actually, I was a bit surprised at how Calcas received assurance of identity from Lord Borgin. There aren't many employees who do that. Anyway, Calcas received the identity verification document, and thanks to that, Chloe was able to receive her salary. Still, I didn't want to use Calcas, who I owed a lot to, as a guarantor, but there was no other way. Is the address the same as here in Borgin? You live in the same area as the guarantor. Once Wilson's biggest concern, the salary issue, was resolved, he checked basic personal information again. It was a job application document that Chloe's twin brother, Cline, had sent by mail to get a job at the Duke House. It was a document that Chloe had never seen, as it was written by Cline. Yes. Because we are friends from the neighborhood. I will send you money as soon as I find a job in my hometown. My heart was heavy when I thought about Calcas. What should he say when asked why he had no choice but to quit his job after 3 months? I know. However, keep in mind that the longer the date is postponed, the more interest accrues. I don't want to be harsh, but this is just a rule. Yes. Sure. After confirming that it was time for afternoon tea, Chloe bowed to Wilson and hurried to the Duke's office. In the Duke's office, only the teacup that Chloe touched while making tea was making a clattering sound. The Duke was sitting at the desk, crossing his arms and staring at Chloe, as if he was upset about something. It was always a quiet room, but today, looking at it like that, the Duke's silence was particularly burdensome, and the noise made by the teacup felt noisy. So, are we done talking? How long are you going to work for? Just when his silent gaze was about to become even more uncomfortable, the Duke finally spoke. Chloe gave strength to the hand holding the teacup. I was so nervous that I was afraid I might accidentally drop it. I decided to work until today and leave tomorrow. Tomorrow. Yes. The Duke closed his mouth again. But his earnest gaze continued to be glued to her. It was a silence that made it difficult to swallow and breathe freely. Would you like me to bring the tea to your desk? Or should I leave it here on the table? Just leave it on the table and tell them to leave quickly. Tell them not to come closer. You did that last time. Leave it there. Phew. It was fortunate. Until the Duke stood up from his seat, muttering to himself, I will go there.